Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Conflict of Nations with Ethiopia. In this episode, you're going to witness rising tensions between the three largest coalitions in this game. In this video, we are going to be reviewing day 21 to day 25 of World War III with Ethiopia. In the previous video, I defeated Egypt and Chad, and my war with Libya began. In this video, my war with Saudi Arabia begins as my war with Libya comes to an end. Not only will you witness what effective combat looks like, you will witness tensions rising amongst the biggest three coalitions in the game. In this video, I want to try out another new video style. Comment down below if you like the new style. Please do give feedback and suggestions if you want to see changes in the video style. And again, this is Red Go Fighter. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let's move on. Day 21. The war with Libya is practically over. I've already taken all his homeland cities with just a single occupied territory left. This was a great victory and the morale boost for the people of Ethiopia. As thanks to better preparations and planning, I managed to maintain minimum casualties. We also made an informal agreement with the government of Colombia, promising not to attack each other. However, this deal didn't stand well with South Africa, who didn't like the prospect of bordering Colombia, a potential future adversary. I got the feeling that Colombia got the hint that South Africa wasn't happy about his expansion into Africa, which is why he talked to me in an attempt to legitimize his territorial claims, possibly hoping that I would advise South Africa from a possible attack. Back in my homeland, my military industrial complex was booming. With high-level bases, industry, and mid-level air bases springing up, my economy was booming, especially when it came to supply and component production. I've got level 4 naval bases and a few secret labs to construct ballistic missile submarines and conventional warheads. Level 4 army bases to mobilize multiple rocket launchers, SAMs, and anti-aircraft guns. I constructed level 2 air bases to mobilize helicopter gunships, attack helicopters, and fighter jets. But as my war with Libya came to a conclusion, I began sending my troops to Oman and Yemen ahead of my campaign against Saudi Arabia. Day 20. My campaign against Libya is practically over. I was just left with a few of his remaining provinces and one of his occupied cities in Tunisia. In Yemen, preparations for the invasion of Saudi Arabia were underway. I started off sending surveillance drones over Saudi cities, finding out many of his southern cities are lightly defended, with the majority of his troops stationed in the north. I managed to mobilize my first attack helicopter and stationed it in Yemen. Not only that, I also finished mobilizing an artillery division and my first air defense unit. I had a navy consisting of around 5 corvettes, and I was researching ballistic missiles, submarines, and conventional warheads. During day 22, I began to send my air force and army to Yemen and Oman to reinforce my troops for the upcoming invasion. I also plan to continue upgrading my corvettes to get better sonar, improved sensors, and firepower. I prefer to use sonar corvettes in this game because the majority of my naval battles were going to take place in shallow waters. Combined with sonar, corvettes have an advantage over battleships, cruisers, and destroyers in many aspects, especially when it comes to survivability, speed in shallow water. My strategy was to use my corvettes to bombard land targets also as well as drawing enemy ships into shallow waters and using the hit and run technique. My ballistic missile submarines were meant to weaken enemy hard targets such as army bases, air bases, industries, and to delay mobilization, demoralize the population, and shock the enemy homeland. I didn't, however, want Colombia and his coalition to find out about my submarines and my missiles. So I specifically mobilized them to attack them, specifically in the case of a sudden war against them. Day 23, the invasion of Saudi Arabia begins. In the late morning of day 23, my helicopters took to the skies over northwest Yemen. I had ships off the coast of western Saudi Arabia, ready to bombard the city of Mecca. I had completely secured Libya at this point, and all the pieces were in place for an invasion of the Arabian Peninsula. At 11 past 11, the order was given to my helicopter squadrons to attack. The war had begun. Mecca quickly came under heavy naval bombardment, forcing him to move his battalions to Jizan. However, it's a trap. My troops would have already captured the city before they have arrived, giving my troops the defensive advantage. Riyadh was a heavily defended city, protected by four armored vehicle stacks. They had the defensive advantage, and it wasn't worth risking suffering heavy casualties for the city. I decided instead to send my troops to the province outside the city, waiting for reinforcement and air support. In the north, I began sending my remaining Libyan forces to Israel, so I could invade Saudi Arabia from the north. I also sent my artillery division of multiple rocket launchers to the same site, consisting of five multiple rocket launchers and one level 3 radar. Hey guys, just a friendly reminder in the middle of the video to like and subscribe. As I've mentioned in earlier videos, it is challenging for me to create and edit these videos, especially during the second school term with the hectic winter school schedule for me and my family. So I really appreciate the support if you do like and subscribe. It does nothing but make my videos better. I do have the goal of reaching 50 subscribers by the end of the winter school term and 2,000 views. So please do share the videos as well. But moving on, day 24. Reinforcements arrived to aid my Riyadh invasion force from Daman, along with a helicopter gunship wing. My mobile artillery division had also arrived in the city of Alat, and its powerful radar team was able to pick up units in Saudi Arabia and Israel. However, when I began my artillery strike with targets within Saudi territory, I didn't realize they were some Israeli units inside the province and accidentally began a war with Israel. Meanwhile, Japan, the leader of the Asian coalition, contacted me, offering if our coalitions could team up together to try and battle Colombia's coalition. I asked them if we could talk in 7 days for two reasons. One, I was wanted to expand and gain as much territory as possible before the school holidays ended, and two, because I wasn't ready for an escalation or a war with Colombia. In the meanwhile, South Africa was preparing to invade Colombia's African territories, requesting that I sent a drone over to see what he was doing in the annexed African cities, which I did. Despite Colombia stating his intentions in Africa, South Africa did not feel comfortable with his lands in Africa, where we had three diplomatic tensions rising. On the one hand, South Africa is preparing to invade Colombia's African territories, On the other, Japan was preparing for a confrontation with Colombia's coalitions, and I'm poking the bear by sending a drone over to his territories. My hope is that Colombia will just see the drones as me being curious that on what he's planning in Africa and not to escalate immediately. Back in the city of Alat, my division was under Israeli artillery attack. Seeing that it was a lonely unit, I sent an infantry battalion to take it out. I also sent another battalion to secure an empty province in Israel. I sent some of my corvettes to Israel's coast to act as fire support for my troops and help clear the city. Given that I'm already at war with him, I don't see why that should change. There seemed to be a glitch with Con News, and it seemed like the titles became weird text. Later the same day, my ships arrived in Israel and began bombarding the cities and the troops in the country. But being at war with Israel made it a security threat for the rest of my territories. So I tasked my mobile artillery units to attack targets in Israel instead of Saudi Arabia. In West Africa, South Africa's preparations for a surprise attack on Colombia's African territories was underway. He was just waiting on getting his ships into position in between South America and Africa to cut off any reinforcements Colombia will send. In southern Saudi Arabia, my troops had already taken three cities, with troops arriving in and out of the outskirts of Riyadh. I also began researching ballistic missiles and upgrading my fighter jets to prepare them to carry cruise missiles. That was the end of day 24. Day 25. When I woke up and opened the game, I was shocked. Most of Israel's military units had disappeared. It took me a while to realize my artillery division had been working throughout the night. That is impressive, and it was going to make taking care of Israel much easier. In the southern parts of Arabia, I had taken over Saudi's capital and toppled his monarchy in the country. And I soon commanded my divisions to take the city of Mecca, while another division focused on taking the remaining provinces. In West Africa, the drone South Africa requested arrived at his airbase in occupied Mali, and I sent it on a mission to gather intelligence on Colombia's troop movements in West Africa. Meanwhile, back in Israel, I split my infantry division into multiple battalions and sent them out to capture the rest of Israel, now that most of his troops were gone. Day 26, and the last day of the episode. The war with Saudi Arabia is almost over, and another overwhelming victory. With just a few provinces left to capture, I also began to attack what's left of Italy. Italy was attacked by Austria and Turkey early on in the game. However, when Turkey went inactive, Austria and Turkey's attacks on Italy stalled. So I decided to take it in preparation for my invasion of Turkey. While South Africa was preparing for his final preparations for his surprise attack on Colombia's West African occupied territories, the United States, a coalition member and close ally to Colombia, began to spy on us. Seeing this as a provocation, I decided to get back to Japan on his proposal, telling him that tensions were beginning to rise back home and that a massive war was about to begin. Almost immediately, I began investing in counterintelligence agents to secure my transmissions with other countries and my resource production, my infrastructure against saboteurs. Agents South Africa had sent to the United States exposed some of the USA's troop movements as he began to send troops to New Zealand. I shared this information with Japan to gain some trust. I then messaged the United States asking him why he was spying on us. By asking, I wanted to scare him through confrontation. However, it wouldn't work as the United States would just reply that this was a war game. I was expecting the US to be one of those players who would like to minimize risk, but this would be a different case. However, this situation gave me a great idea. I sent my first ballistic missile submarine to Lake Michigan. In the case the United States attacks South Africa, or I could immediately retaliate against his homeland. He wouldn't even know the submarines were there. He wouldn't even be expecting it to be there. Back in my homeland, I began mobilizing my SAM system to protect my cities from an impending war with Colombia's coalition. Day 26 was a day of rising tensions, and I want to end this episode with a quote from a movie I watched a long time ago called Tomorrowland. Though I don't remember the exact words, it went something like this: the end of the world is inevitable because everyone believes it will happen. This quote means to me, in the context of this game, is that because all the active players believe that we are going to clash with each other, we are putting the pieces in place for it to happen anyway. It was going to be my coalition and allies, South Africa and I, as well as Japan's coalition, against Colombia's coalition, consisting of the United States, Austria, Ukraine, and obviously Colombia. Well, guys, that is the end of this episode. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video or watched till the end, please leave a like and subscribe, as this does nothing but make my videos better. See you guys in the next episode, The Spark of the Great War.